And the final 3 books, yes, we are all the way down to the very end, are books. I don't know the numbers. Hold on. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with a haul. So I'm realizing now that this makes it look like there's a very big pile here. There's really not. There's only, I'd say maybe a little over 10 books here to show you. And this is a mixture of both February and January's books because I really didn't buy a whole lot so far this year. I've been trying to cut back on my book buying, trying to use my library more, you know, trying to be more financially better. But I did go to our used bookstore with a friend in February and was able to get a bunch of things that were on store credit, so I didn't actually have to pay anything for them, and then some pre-orders that I just really wanted to came in, just a couple of things. So that's really about it. There's not a whole lot. I'll link everything down below as I usually do, but let's dive into the books that I picked up so far this year. Starting off January, the very first book is a pre-order that came in, and that is The Lily of Lgate Hill, and this is the 3rd book in the Bells of London series by Nanny Matthews. I've read the other 2 books in the series and really enjoyed it. The first one was The Siren of Sussex. The second one was The Belle of Belgrave Square. So it's just this group of 4 women that are friends. They connect in the very first book. They kind of bond over A, being kind of wallflowers, and B, being in love with horse riding and horses. This is the 3rd one. There should be a 4th one that's coming out later this year, but I really wanted this one just because I've loved this series so much. This book specifically follows Anne, who in the last couple of books we've come to know a little bit, but her mother is obsessed with the occult. So her father has passed away. I don't remember how long it's been, but it's been like, oh, 6 years right there. So her father passed away 6 years ago, and her mother still is in mourning clothes. She and Anne basically wear black, and they are obsessed with, well, her mother is, and Anne just kind of goes along for the ride, but they're obsessed with the occult and seances and things of that nature. So it's a little bizarre. Her family's a little odd, but she has had something in the past with this guy named Felix. And so I think in this book, they kind of strike up a bargain. She needs something from him. He decides to help her out, but the only way to do that is if she comes to, I think, a summer party or something, like one of those parties that lasts for a few weeks, and doesn't wear any morning clothes and is like completely honest with him. So it sounds like it's going to be a second chance romance of sorts, but I love this series. This is definitely good if you want that Regency romance vibes, but you don't want it to be very smutty. This is a great series, and I just needed to get my hands on the newest one. Kind of in the same vein, I ended up also picking up The Gentlemen's Gambit by Evie Dunmore. This is the 4th and final book in the League of Extraordinary Women's series. This one actually came out at the end of last year, so I picked it up a little bit later, but the same thing. It follows 4 women who become really close. They all are involved in the suffragette movement, or the suffragette chapter in Oxford. And so this is just the final girl that we haven't had a story about, and her name is Katarina. I'm not entirely sure. Basically, it's between her and this guy who becomes her father's attractive new colleague, but he's there under false pretenses. I'm not sure if the false pretenses are to get to know her because he's attracted to her, or if there's something else going on, but there's something between the 2 of them. And her books are very funny in their dialogue. They're humorous, but they are on the relatively smutty side. So I'm excited to dive into this one at some point in the future as well. And then, of course, the last book that I picked up in January was my pre-order of House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas, which is the most recent book in the Crescent City series. She is a thick one, but you guys know how obsessed I am with this series, and well, just Sarah J. Maas in general. So I just needed to get my hands on the newest one, and I'm excited. So this series, if you don't know, which I feel like everyone knows what the series is about, because It's very, very popular right now, but the first book follows our main character, Bryce Quinlan, who is half mortal, half fae, and it takes place in a city called Crescent City, which is an urban fantasy setting. There's a bunch of different types of magical creatures in there. You've got fae, you've got werewolves, you've got witches, you have vampires. I'm forgetting a few, I'm sure. Angels is one of them. The whole plot of this story is that there's a guy in jail who has been put away for a bunch of murders and bombings, but then something very, very similar to what he was put away for happens while he is still in jail, and Bryce has a connection to the story. So she's asked by like the leader of the Angels, who's kind of like in charge of this city, to basically investigate and figure out what's going on, but because it's super dangerous and the cities are all super dangerous and this guy is super dangerous, he basically assigns this guy named Hunt, who is a fallen angel, to protect her. So investigate with her, but also protect her. And it's their story. It's of course way more than that. It goes into so many things, but I really enjoyed the first one. The second one was pretty good, not as good as the first one in my opinion, and we finally have the third one. So I'm not sure I'm ready for this big chunk yet. I think I want to finish the Throne of Glass series first, but I'm hoping to dive into this one sooner rather than later because I need answers. I need answers, and I need to know things because there was a cliffhanger at the end of the last book. Okay, moving on to February. The first, most of these are from that book warehouse that I went to, that bookstore that I went to. The first one I picked up was Icebreaker. This is by Hannah Grace. This is the first in a contemporary romance series. I can't remember exactly what the series is called. Maple Hills, I believe, because that's the school. But it follows a girl who's on the figure skating team and a guy who's on the hockey team, and it's a romance between the two of them. I believe something happens and they both end up needing to use the same facility, or have something about like the two of them are fighting for the same space. So it's a romance between the two of them. I've heard that even though this is a super cute cover, do not be fooled, and it's super smutty. So I don't know if I care about hockey specifically, but I'm very interested in this series, and especially this book. We'll see about the rest of the books in the series, because I think there are at least 2 more at this point. But right now, this is the one I was most interested in, and I found it there for super cheap. So I said, okay, this is a sign. Another contemporary romance that I picked up is The Nanny, and this one's by Lana Ferguson. This one is one that I saw in a Barnes & Noble, I don't know, probably sometime last year. I want to say it was during the summer. And it was one of those books that I picked it up and went, maybe, but then I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I'm very interested to see about this. It's a romance between this woman and a guy, and it says here on the back, a woman discovers the father of the child she is nannying is her biggest OnlyFans. She, I think, creates an OnlyFans to help her out during college, and then something happened, and so she stopped using it, and then got a nanny gig to help her out during college, and the guy who is the father of the children, or the child that she is nannying, was one of her fans on this site. So I don't really know. It could be totally bizarre, but I am intrigued enough that when I saw it for super cheap, I said, okay, this is also a sign. All right, the next two I'm going to do together because they're actually both for my husband, and there are a couple of John Grisham books that I picked up. He's been trying to collect all of John Grisham's books because he loves John Grisham, and try to collect them in hardcover. And so every time we go to the bargain bookstores, we look to see what things are there for super cheap that he doesn't already own. And these two are some of his newer books, but they were super cheap. So we have The Judge's List, and then we also have The Boys from Biloxi. I don't know what either of these are about, so I do apologize, but John Grisham is known as being like a legal thriller kind of writer. I've read 2 books by him, and they were pretty good, but like seriously, we have 2 entire shelves that are dedicated to this guy's books. And so whenever I go, or whenever we go, we always just kind of take a quick look to see if there's anything there, and we were lucky this time by 2 super cheap books. So these are legal thrillers. I believe this one's also a legal thriller. He does a couple that are not legal thrillers, so I'm not sure about The Boys from Biloxi, but The Judge's List for sure is a legal thriller. And I picked those up for him, so adding those to the collection. And then the last 2 books that I ended up picking up from this book warehouse were the two that I went in with the goal of getting. And that is the next two books and the Discovery of Witches series. Sorry, it's called the All Souls Trilogy. Although I'm not sure it's called a trilogy anymore. I think it's just called the All Souls series because it's more than 3 books. But I have Shadow of Night and the Book of Life, which are the next two. They don't match my Discovery of Witches perfectly because that one is hardback and these are paperback. But honestly, for some reason, that doesn't bother me. And I don't exactly know why. But I really want to get to this trilogy soon. So I'm hoping that by picking them up, I'll be able to get them. But these were the ones that I went in with the goal of getting. I do have this one. The second book is on my list of books to read by the end of the year. But the Discovery of Witches series follows, basically it's set in modern day, like England. And it follows a woman who is a witch. In this world, there are like 3 types of beings besides like just regular mortals. You've got witches, vampires, and demons. And so she's a witch, but she's kind of cast off her heritage. And so she's studying in Oxford, and in the library, she ends up calling up a book by accident that is a grimoire of sorts, and it ignites a lot of stuff. And so a bunch of people, from witches to vampires to demons, are after her because they know that she's the only one who could access this specific book, and she's the only one who knows who this book is because she looked at it and went, okay, and then sent it back into the backlogged books. So she's the only one who knows what it is. And so it's all these people after her, and this guy named Matthew who is a vampire who is actually there to try to protect her. So it's their story. It's been marketed as the Twilight for adults. I don't really see that as much, but these are the next 2 books. We had some things that happened in the last book, so I'm very excited to dive into the next 2 when I get a chance. And then I had a pre-order come in, and that is To Woo and To Wed, and this is by Martha Waters. This is the final book in her Regency Vows series. I am sad to see it go, but it does feel like the appropriate time. I've been connected with this series for quite a long time, but this one follows our main 2 characters, Sophie and West, who are basically the last 2 in this friend group that we've collected over the last few books that aren't matched up. But there's some sort of history between the 2 of them, and we're not sure what it is. And so I believe it's a second chance romance of sorts. I know Sophie has been widowed for a while, and she's kind of put romance on the back burner. But I don't know if they like struck up a bargain or what, but it's their romance. And I'm excited to see what this one's about. I love Martha Waters' writing. She's really, really funny, but I'm excited to see how she finishes up this series that I have just loved so much. And the final 3 books, yes, we are all the way down to the very end, are books, I don't know the numbers, hold on, 5, 6, and 7 in the Throne of Glass series. Yes, I picked them up. Have I read only the first 2? 1 or 2? Yes. Am I obsessed? Also yes. I recently started a new vlog series about hyped books, and I did an episode on the Throne of Glass. I also read the Assassin's Blade in that one. It's a super long video, do apologize, but I already had the first 4 in the series, and so I went on Amazon and I found the next 2, Queen of Shadows, oh dear, and Empire Storms, for super cheap. It was like cheaper than I've been able to find it anywhere else. So I picked those 2 up, and then I was also out of town one of the weekends in February, and I found an indie bookstore that I picked up Tower of Dawn in. So I'm technically only missing the very last book, so I do need to get my hands on that one. But I've got 5 books to read before I even get to the very last book. So I think we're good for a little bit, but I've just been so obsessed with this series that I needed to get my hands on the next 3. So if you'd like to check out that video, I'll leave it linked above. The book series as a whole is super well loved, I think, but it follows our main character, Selena, who is an assassin and has been trained as an assassin. And in the very first book, she is called forth by the prince to basically take part in this championship to become the king's champion. I saw queen and I said queen. The king's champion, which is basically just like the king's assassin. She ended up in jail, and that's where she starts the book, is being taken out of jail. And so the king is the reason that she's in jail, and she does not like the king. But if she does stuff for him for a few years, then he will give her her freedom. So she participates in this championship, or this competition, and it's her and I think 22 other thieves, assassins, soldiers, bad guys, but she's the only female one, which I feel like is always not mentioned, and so I was surprised when I saw that. But I really enjoyed the first book. It's got a lot of twists and turns. I'm excited to see where the series goes, and I just needed to get my hands on the next few because I'm going to read them. I'm going to binge this series over the next couple of months, so might as well get them when they're cheap. So that's what I did. I picked up the next 3 in the series. So I'm very excited about that. And that's it. That is a look at all the books that I have picked up, bought in some way over the course of the first 2 months of the year. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm hoping that these hauls would become less monthly, just because that means I'm not buying as much, because who wants to see a video where I talk about 3 books only, which is why I didn't do a January haul, and I kind of combined these 2. But who knows, you know, we'll see. I'm seeing family in a month, and I'm sure we'll go book shopping at some point. So we'll see how that goes, but that's my plan, is hopefully you'll see maybe more combined hauls in the future. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, let me know your thoughts on any of the books that I mentioned in today's video if you've read them. Please, please, please tell me your thoughts. Tell me what I should bump up on my TBR. Give me all the bookish goodies. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. Let's go with my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links. So check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!